Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some handgun testing, and today we've got some really interesting combos to run. We've got a loading that I expect to see some very nice results from. It is the one that I trust in my own EDC setup, so we should be able to get a really good idea on exactly how it performs, especially since we've got two different handguns we can run it through. We've got the full gambit of tests from accuracy to velocity to ballistics gel testing, so we can get penetration and see our expansion and recovered weight and stuff of our bullet. So this should be a rather interesting and pretty full in-depth test of what these loadings can actually do. But for the loads we've got today, I brought out some of the Federal Premium HST loads. It's kind of hard to beat a Federal HST in my experience and a lot of other people's as well. These are probably some of the best and most reliable self-defense handgun loads you can really get because they work in pretty much anything you could run them through, and they're reliable at doing it as well. These ones though are the 9mm 124 grain plus P loading, so they've got a little bit more behind them than the standard 9mm load, and they're claiming 1200 feet per second on the box. We'll see how close that number gets, and a couple different barrel lengths as well today, with just shy of 400 foot-pounds of muzzle energy at 396. So these are probably about as reliable and as nice, solid performing of a load as you could ask for in a handgun. So we're going to put them through their paces today and see if that actually does hold up, which I expect it to. But here's what one of those rounds looks like for those curious. Nice nickel-plated shiny casing, big deep hollow point cavity in the front of that bullet. I don't know that I've ever ran across expansion problems with an HST, except if you're running something like a 147 grain through a really short barrel. Then you might not have enough velocity to fully utilize the expansion, but otherwise than that, these should perform fantastic for us in today's two setups. So for the guns that we're going to be running them through today, if we're doing an in-depth test like this, I think it's wise of us to run a couple different barrel lengths to really get a good idea on what they do in a couple different setups. So something like a more compact carry pistol and something a little closer into the full size range should give us a good idea on what different barrel lengths can do. For our compact, we've got a Glock 43X. This one is my personal EDC, so we've got my full combination, my 43X with the 124 HST plus P loads. I like the plus Ps in these shorter barrels to get that little bit more velocity out of them. These 43Xs have a 3.4 inch barrel length and are definitely in the compact realm for sure. And for the full size setup, I brought out a Canik TP9 SFX. This one's got a Vortex Viper red dot on top as well, so when we get to accuracy, we'll look at iron sights and a red dot application. This setup definitely has a nicer trigger to it. I've got a red dot, longer barrel. We're now at 5.2 inches, so this should be a decent comparison, both ends of the story. Compact iron sight carry gun versus full size, little fancier rig, better trigger, longer barrel with a red dot. So we've got 43X versus the TP9 SFX. Those are our two setups that we're running today for all of our testing, and they should give us a good comparison. So as for today's test, what we're looking for is velocity. We're going to combine that with potentially getting a little bit of accuracy out of them as well. We'll talk more about that here in just a minute. But I've also got some ballistic gel blocks that we're going to run them into as well, with the full FBI kit of clothing and stuff like that. So we'll start for getting our average muzzle velocities. We'll shoot 5 rounds through each barrel length through the chronograph I've got set up over here, and I'm going to combine that with trying to get a little bit of accuracy out of them. I've got two silhouettes spray painted down there at 20 yards from where I'm going to be taking these velocity shots. We know that at 5-7 yards you can keep them all on a torso just fine. 20 yards is still pretty average, shooting range distance, maybe a little farther than a self-defense scenario, but it should give us a little bit of range to stretch it out and see what they might do for accuracy. Take those results for whatever they mean to you. There's so many variables, from the gun to the ammo to me as a handgun shooter. I don't have any kind of fancy training. I'm not a professional handgun shooter, I'm not a competition guy, but I represent the pretty broad average general public, I would say. Perfectly serviceable for handgun accuracy, but definitely not competition. So we'll start here, get some velocity numbers, get some accuracy data if that is a valid point that you're interested in, and then we'll move over to our gel test. All right, so first up, we have our Glock 43X. I've got 5 rounds loaded up in the magazine. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna jam this pistol into my lead sled here. I've got a nice rest for my wrist. This lead sled isn't moving anywhere. And I've got a nice straight view down to our 20-yard target where the silhouettes are sprayed. I'm gonna be shooting the left one, aiming for the white dot. Obviously, this is not a perfect shooting position necessarily, but it is a nice stable rest. We can get velocity and potentially a few little accuracy results as well for those that are curious. So first up, 5 rounds in the 43X. We'll see what they do. All right, next up, we've got the Canik TP9 SFX, going from a 3.4 to now a 5.2 inch barrel. Same story, same rest, just the right hand silhouette will give velocity and accuracy numbers. From a little fancier setup, longer barrel, this should give us a little more velocity to work with, I would imagine. Okay, so quick run through for velocities. We'll start with the 43X. It's got a 3.4 inch barrel. Remember, we have a 1200 boss claim, but with that short of a barrel and a compact pistol, I don't expect to see quite that number, and we did not see that. It looked like we were about 1100. We had 1109, 1090, 1115, 1124, and 1084 for an average at 1104. So yeah, right about 1100, right where I thought we were going to see from that gun, with an extreme spread of 40 and a standard deviation of 15. So now we know we're averaging right about 1104 from the shorter barrel in the 43X. But now hopping over to our Canik, which is a 5.2 inch barrel, so almost 2 inches longer, and we definitely picked up velocity. I believe now we were a little over their 1200 claim. We had 1258, 1217, 1226, 1247, and 1249. For an average at 1239. So what, that's 135-ish feet per second difference between our two barrel lengths. Definitely a noticeable difference. With an extreme spread of 41, so almost exactly the same, and a standard deviation of 15. So looking at our two averages here, we had 1104 and 1239. Here are the barrel lengths and the energy numbers, or at least muzzle energy numbers, from each of these different guns. Definitely a little bit of a difference there. And we were a little below and a little above the boss claim of 396. So looking good here for velocities, or as expected from our setups. But now we'll move down and look at our two silhouettes. Even though these are spray painted, they are very close to the standard 18x30 torsos that you would find in an actual like defensive target. Remember, this is set up at 20 yards, and we're seeing some pretty decent looking little accuracy results here. And I will jump in just quickly to say that yes, I did take my time trying to get as accurate of a result as I could. I did edit it down a little bit to just save time in the video, so it made it look like I was actually shooting faster than what I really was when I was actually out there on the range shooting anyway. So I did indeed take my time to the best that I could. And again, take these accuracy results for whatever they mean to you. There's just so many variables when it comes to handgun testing for accuracy, like we're trying to do here. So if this is a valid data point for you, fantastic. If it's not, then at least now we know what they might be capable of, just in some fun range testing at the end of the day anyway. I favored a little left with the Glock, that was on the left, and my red dot, I guess, with these loads is a little to the right with the Canik on the right. But with the 43X, all 5 shots are right at 3.26 inches, all well within a handprint, even at 20 yards, and the Canik is 1.92, so just under 2 inches, well within your handprint, and that's a pretty nice looking little group there. Obviously, the Glock was iron sights, and the Canik had a red dot, so that could have made up a little difference. The Canik could just be a little more accurate. It does have a better trigger on it as well than the Glock does, but still, I'm pretty happy with that group with the 43X. That's a compact pistol, and although I did have a good rest, still got irons and stuff on it, and this is still 20 yards. So accuracy's sake for both of them, the Canik is the winner, but I'm not really overly surprised. But both of them did just fine, I would say. Nothing egregiously bad to see here. But now we've got some ballistics gel testing to do. See what kind of penetration we get, see what kind of energy numbers we can dump, what kind of expansion that we can get. This should be rather interesting to see these wound tracks, because I have a feeling both of them are going to be pretty gnarly. But as for the setup here, this is all going to be done to FBI standards. So I've got two 16-inch blocks of 10% clear ballistics gel. The rear one has been used once before, but the front one up here, where our main wound channel is going to be, that's completely brand new, unused, never had a bullet in the block at all. And we, of course, have the FBI clothing on the front of it here. We've got a layer of denim, a layer of fleece, a layer of cotton t-shirt material, and another layer of a little bit thinner cotton shirt material. That's exactly what the FBI calls for. We're looking for between 12 and 18 inches of penetration. Any less than that, and they dock points off for it. Any more than that, and we're potentially looking at over penetration. As for distance, I have the chrono set up right over here, and a tripod that I can shoot off of to hopefully get two nice centered up bullet hits where we want them to be in the gel. They call for 10 feet from the muzzle to the front of the block, and that's exactly what we've got measured out here from the block over to my tripod right here on the left. So this is as good as I can realistically get it anyway. So we'll start first with the Glock 43X, a little bit shorter barrel, more compact pistol, a little bit more common of a carry gun. We'll put that into the gel, get a quick look at what it did, and then we'll move to the Canik, which is the longer barrel. We'll put that into the gel, and then we'll look at them both side by side and see what the difference is and pull some bullets. So let's start with the Glock 43X. We'll put a round in there and see what it does. Okay, so for velocity, out of our 43X shot, we had 1,087, just shy of our 1,100 or so average. So looking pretty good there. And of course, here are your energy numbers and stuff on screen for this exact shot. So you can see what we're actually moving and looking pretty decent there for what it is. But now moving over here to our wound track, we did favor a little bit lower in the gel than what I wanted to, but no big deal there. We can still see exactly what we need to. Went through every layer of clothing right up here in the front as well. You can see our nice bullet hole through everything, and we have a pretty nice looking wound channel in there. It opened up almost immediately up front there, carried it out all the way through this first 16-inch block, and we poked a little bit into the second here as well. Nice expanded bullet there. Now I'll move around to the other side here since it is a little bit favored this way in the block. Nice opened up wound cavity there, took it all the way almost to the end of the first 16-inch block, and a little dirty in the second block, but there's our nice expanded bullet. But now if we get our measuring tape out here, if we start right about where the bullet ended there and move all the way over to the end of the bullet track down here, just over 20.5 inches of penetration. Quite a bit more, or at least probably 4 or 5 inches more than what I thought we would see, especially from that shorter barrel. But that bullet, although it definitely opened up, may not have opened up quite as far as what we're about to see with the Canik with the longer barrel. So let's get everything set back up. Now we'll take a shot through the Canik and see what the little longer barrel can do, because that bullet might open up a little farther and not get quite as much penetration. And for that shot from the Canik, the little bit longer barrel, we saw a little higher velocity, no surprise. We're looking at 1228 there for that shot. So here is your energy number for that exact shot. That's about where we should be, low to mid 1200s out of that gun. Pretty typical numbers there. But now over here back at our gel block, and we can see a very nice wound channel all the way down to that perfectly expanded bullet. Went through all 16 inches of the first block, poked into the second block a little bit, but it is less penetration than what we got over there on the other side down low from our Glock with the shorter barrel. Very nice expanded bullet though. Very, very nice wound track. Opened up almost immediately there and carried it at least 3/4 of the way through the block until we got just the actual bullet hole moving down there instead of the permanent wound channel we got up here. But that's the HST channel right there. Nice opened up spiral cut perfectly through the block. It did not care about the clothing we had up there at all. So two very nice performances here. And as far as penetration goes, if we start the tape measure back at the beginning of our block and look down here, we're just a hair past 18 inches, maybe close to 18 and a half before we had a little bit of spring back there. So 18 inches is kind of the FBI standard for the top of the penetration line, if you will. 12 to 18 is what we're generally looking for, but still I kind of like being out here towards the end of that 18-inch range. Either one of these I obviously would not hesitate to trust my life with. Even if we move back over here to where our 43X bullet is, I would still trust that even out at 21 inches or whatever, because that is my EDC setup right there, the 43X with these HST 124 plus Ps. So now that we've got an idea on what the actual wound tracks look like, or I'll show you them side by side here, might as well while we're looking at it. Maybe you can tell the difference up here looking from the top of the block, maybe a little bit hazy potentially, but I think we can still kind of see everything we need to see here between the two. Pretty similar, but a little larger on the little bit longer barrel, a little higher velocity. But let's pull some bullets out and see what they actually look like. All right, so now we've got these two bullets up here in the shade where we can get a good up close look at them. The 43X round is on the right and the Canik round is on the left. Very similar overall, maybe not quite as much expansion from this Glock round. If we tip them over here, you can see how far back the petals actually peeled. A little bit farther back on the Canik over there on the left than what we saw with the Glock. No surprise there, little shorter barrel, little less velocity, little less expansion. But both of these are still very much so HSTs, very nasty, very reliable performance. The Glock bullet took a little bit of denim with it in the center there, but obviously it did not care about those pieces of clothing at all in either one. About as perfect as you could ask for an HST. As for expansion, with the bullet from the 43X, we had right at 0.58, and obviously it definitely opened up there. And now for the bullet from our Canik, we're right at 0.57. So a tiny bit less expansion as far as the width goes, but that's because the petals peel back farther. So it actually expanded more, although it is almost exactly the same as far as outer diameter goes. But as far as our weight goes, that is our 43X bullet. We're right at 124.6. We started at 124 boss claim, so we're right there at it. Did not lose any kind of weight at all. Maybe gained a little with that tiny bit of jean material, but that pretty much remains consistent. 124.2 or so from our Canik load. Still right at 124. Did not lose any material at all. So overall, these two look exactly like I would expect to see out of two HST loads. Perfect performance. Nothing more you could really ask out of those right there. Very adequate self-defense loading for 9mm especially. It's hard to argue with what the HSTs can really do. Alright y'all, well, what do we think about the HSTs? Those 124 plus P loadings have always been reliable for me. Granted, I've never used them in a defensive scenario. Hope I never have to. But I have actually taken like groundhogs and stuff like that around the farm here using those loads. And they are very effective on live creatures as well. Obviously, we saw what they can do. We've got good velocities right where we should be from our two barrel lengths. Accuracy looks pretty good. Even at 20 yards off of a decent rest, you're still putting them well within a handprint. And obviously the gel test says the real story. Plenty of penetration. It is a little bit more than what the FBI calls for essentially, or looks for, between 12 and 18. We're a little over that, but I don't mind being just a hair over that as long as we're not just sending them through the whole block without any expansion. But the bullets did exactly what they were supposed to do. They expanded well. They left nasty wound tracks in the gel. They did not care about the clothing in front of it at all. So you can't argue with it. That's why HSTs are kind of my go-to if I'm going to trust my life to something in a handgun platform. That's what I'm running. If I'm suggesting somebody a solid defensive load, it's hard not to say the Federal HSTs. Get whatever variation of them you want, the 115s, 124s, 147s, regular, plus P, whatever. I've never had a problem with them. They're probably the most reliable load that I've run and that I would trust, and this is exactly why. So perfect results, exactly what I expected to see out of them, because they always do what they're supposed to. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Federal HST loads? And if so, what kind of results have you gotten? Is that the load that you would trust your life with? If you have an EDC setup, is that the load that you run in it? And if not, what other loadings do you actually like to run in your EDC? As well as maybe what other testing do you want to see with either these loads, doing other stuff with them, or what other handgun loads do you want to see us run in a little more official test capacity like this, where we've got a bunch of different data points. Let me know what you guys might want to see, but with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox. You can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.